Okay, so you guys are here for the 14-day Fat Furnace seminar. So you've received all your emails, learned how fantastic everything was, and now you want to know what to do. So to get started, we've been doing this 14-day program for about 2 or 3 years. And the most anybody's lost is, I think it was 15.5 pounds. A lot of people doing 15, 14, 13, 10. It's a pretty effective program. It's not easy. It's really strict, and you have to follow everything perfectly. We're not going to starve you. You just have to eat certain types of foods on certain days, which we'll cover. The key to any weight loss program and all of our weight loss programs is controlling insulin. If you control your insulin release, you're going to control your weight loss, without a doubt. You control insulin by producing less glucose, which means you have to eat less carbohydrates. So that's where the battle is. I just want to give you a little information about why eating too many carbohydrates causes you to gain fat and hold on to fat, so you'll understand why we're asking you to reduce your carbohydrates. We're not going to ask you to eat zero, we're just going to ask you to eat less. Right? So the first rule of weight loss, which I want to cover, and this is the main premises for the whole nutrition plan that you're going to follow, is that you have to control your carbohydrates. D-R-A-T-E-S. So what are carbohydrates, first thing? You guys know what carbs are? Right, so there's 3 types of carbs. First ones are called starches, which are the same as grains or complex carbohydrates. Do you guys know what grains are, carbohydrates? What are they? Just name a few. Rice, definitely. Quinoa, definitely. Quinoa is spelled with a Q. Some people see that word and they don't know what it is, but that's quinoa. Potatoes, yep. What else? Don't be shy. Wheat, bread. So wheat or a pasta contains wheat, bread. And when you talk about bread, it's bagels, muffins, and cakes, and all those things. What else do you have? Cereal. Those are all starches. And also beans and legumes. A lot of people think beans and legumes are proteins, but they're not. They're carbohydrates or starches. Usually, typically, for every gram of protein in the bean, there's 2 to 3 grams of carbohydrate. So it's more of a carbohydrate food. And also, the protein contained in beans and legumes are incomplete proteins, and your body needs complete proteins to function properly. So for all intents and purposes, they are really carbohydrates and starches. So what all these starches look like is they're glucose molecules. You guys know what glucose is? Sugar. So do starches taste sugary? They taste sweet, but they have maybe 5 or more times sugar, or 5 or 10 times more sugar in them than a piece of candy. Surprising, right? So let's just say quinoa might be 50 glucose molecules all bonded together. Bread might be 49. Rice might be 51. But all you have to know, these foods here are just long chains of sugar waiting to invade your body. Second type of carbohydrate are fibrous carbs, which obviously they give you fiber. But fibrous carbs basically are all vegetables. So vegetables are carbohydrates too. So what they look like is they're glucose molecules. And again, you guys know what glucose is, right? Sugar. So, and there may be about 20 of them. So broccoli might be 20 glucose molecules, and I don't know, Swiss chard might be 19, and kale might be 21, but they're just, different amounts of sugar waiting to invade your body. They don't taste sweet, but they contain a lot of glucose. Third type of carbohydrates are simple carbs, and healthy simple carbs are fruits. Unhealthy ones are like candies and simple sugars and things like that. And what they look like, as you can surmise, is they're glucose molecules bonded together. There is some fructose in fruit, but there's a combination of fructose and glucose. Mostly glucose, but maybe there's only about 10 sugar molecules in that one. So all carbohydrates, whether starches, complex carbs, grains, fibrous carbs, vegetables, simple carbs, all carbohydrates, no matter what they are, good carbs, bad carbs, net carbs, they're just different amounts of sugar waiting to invade your body. Sounds good, right? So next time, I use carbohydrates and sugar interchangeably. They're basically the same thing. So, and we use this example all the time. I have a client comes in and says, Mike, I had some organic quinoa for lunch, and I had an organic salad with that, with all kinds of nice organic vegetables on them. And then I had some organic blueberries or strawberries on top of that salad, and I ate really healthy today. And those are all healthy foods, right? They're organic and a lot of nutrient content and everything. So when this person ate that way, this is what it looks like on the inside. So when you eat all these foods, your body digests these glucose molecules down, and it does that by breaking the bonds in between the sugar molecules. So what is released is what? Pure sugar, glucose. So a little while later, you go into your bloodstream, and what's rolling through your bloodstream? Sugar, right? So once it's in your bloodstream, your body doesn't know this came from a piece of fruit, piece of candy, quinoa, salad, rice. All it knows is that, hey, listen, we have a lot of sugar in my bloodstream. In your vessels, in the lining of your blood vessels, there's receptors that are always consistently monitoring the percentage of glucose in your sugar, the percentage of blood sugar. And when you eat like this, your body does that, and you have all this sugar going through your veins, these receptors are saying, wow, there's a lot of glucose in this person's bloodstream. We have to bring that glucose level down, the sugar level down. So it causes your body to release insulin. You guys know what insulin is, right? Very powerful hormone. So your body releases insulin, over-releases insulin to drag the sugar out of your bloodstream into your liver. Because if that doesn't happen, you'll die. You guys know that, right? So like diabetics, if they eat too many carbs, and they have this happening, if they don't inject insulin, they can die. There's diabetic coma, diabetic shock, and then they're done. So the body's saying, this is an emergent situation. This person is going to die. Let's release insulin and save their life. This happens to everybody all day long. So once your body releases insulin, which is a good thing, in response from eating more carbohydrates than your body can tolerate, a couple things happen. First thing happens, your body immediately goes into fat storage. So there was no fat in quinoa, there's no fat in salad and vegetables, no fats in fruits. So it doesn't matter if you eat fats or not. People say fats make you fat. They don't. But what happens is if you eat too many carbohydrates, your body triggers an insulin response, which is a hormonal response. And insulin will trigger leptin. You guys have ever heard of leptin, a hormone? So insulin will trigger leptin to cause your body's fat stores to stay there and not be released. So if you're eating like this, you're exercising all day long, you're not burning off any fat stores because they're kept in storage because leptin's saying, stay there. Okay? So the first thing is your body, when you're over-releasing insulin from too many carbohydrates, your body goes into fat storage. You don't want to be in fat storage. You want to burn that excess fat off. The second thing is insulin will also release ghrelin. You guys ever hear ghrelin? Ghrelin? No. It's another hormone. It's your hunger hormone. So what happens when insulin's released, no released, it not only trips leptin to cause your body to stay in fat storage, it trips ghrelin to stimulate hunger. So you have Chinese food, you get filled up, right? A little while later, you get hungry again. And then you usually crave more carbohydrates. You have more carbohydrates, your body goes back into fat storage, trips ghrelin again, you get hungry, you have more carbohydrates, and what happens? You get caught in this vicious cycle, exactly. Research shows that when people are caught in this cycle, they're releasing compounds called glucomorphins or glucomorphinogenic compounds. So you get like a morphine-like addiction to sugar, carbohydrate, a sugar addict or carbohydrate addict. That's a real thing, and that's what happens here. So if you have hunger and sugar cravings, again, all a hormonal effect. Another thing we get back to, we were talking about fat storage and the sugar. Your body has to burn the sugar off because there's too much in your system. So as I said before, if you're on a treadmill or taking a class, working with a trainer, and you think you're burning glucose off, you are. If you think you're burning fat, you're not. Because your body's saying, listen, there's over excess of sugar here, and if we don't burn this off, this person's going to die. So keep those fat stores in there, and let's burn off this excess sugar. So that's what's happening. So if you've been working out for many, many years and not losing weight, it's more likely not because you're not working out enough or not doing the right workout, it's because you're not eating properly. And you just have to change some of the percentage around, which we'll discuss. So you're in fat storage, and you're hungry all the time. Number 3, the word carbohydrate has a word in it right there. And what's that word? Hydrate. So carbohydrates hydrate you. For every gram of carbohydrates that your body stores, you store 3.7 grams of water. So if you're eating carbs, craving carbs, eating carbs, craving carbs, and storing more and more carbohydrates, you're storing almost 4 times the amount of water. So there's water retention and bloating. And it's there, right? A lot of people don't realize that. This is also indicative in high blood pressure. So a lot of people have high blood pressure. If they're eating too many carbs, your body's storing more and more water. And that excess water is increasing your blood volume. And increasing your blood volume increases interarterial pressure on the inside of your vessels, which increases blood pressure. We've had many people come through our program, go on our nutrition plan, which is a lower carbohydrate plan, And lo and behold, within the next week, they are off medications, blood pressure medications. They start getting a little dizzy, a little lightheaded. They call a doctor, and the doctor says, okay, reduce your medication or come off your medication. It's a miracle. And without even talking about sodium. I mean, you can go on a lower carbohydrate diet and drop your blood pressure like that without even playing with your sodium. It's more important than sodium restriction. We've had that happen a lot in our program. So if you're on any blood pressure medication and you're following this program, let your doctor know ahead of time and let him know you're going on a low carbohydrate program. And he's going to say, listen, if you're a little lightheaded or dizzy, let me know, and we're going to cut your medication in half or take you off it. But that's your doctor's decision, not mine or yours. But you might want to be careful with that.
What if you have low blood pressure? Like, is that going to make it go even lower?
I haven't had that. We haven't had that response. Yeah. Okay. So these are 3 things going on. Number 4. Fourth thing is you're going to have changes in energy and mood. So a lot of people skip breakfast or grab a cup of coffee at breakfast. They grab a quick, salad at lunch. They get home 4 or 5 o'clock at night, and they're crazy. They're hungry, and they're a tyrant. And they're yelling and screaming at their kids, their spouse, and everything. And that's just from not having correct blood sugar. Some people go out, they have a big lunch, and an hour later, they can't get their head off the desk because they're tired. They can't stop yawning. That's in response to what's going on with blood sugar. So when you're eating properly, these moods and your energy levels will be much more even keel, and I'll show you how to eat properly in a second. So it will affect your mood and energy levels. Number 5, lifespan. Who doesn't want to live longer, right? So a lot of recent research coming out is showing that animals in the animal kingdom and humans who produce the least amount of insulin live the longest. So it's highly indicative in the aging process. If you can learn to live on less carbohydrates, if you can teach your body to release less insulin over time, you'll last longer. And for me, that was the main reason why I started embarking on eating this way. Because, being 57 and getting up there, I'm more worried or more focused on being healthier to live longer and to be more active in the older age than I am, trying to be lean and mean. So for me, it has more to do with longevity at this point in my life. So you take that person who I said before was eating the organic quinoa, the organic salad, and eating all healthy, but not realizing the damage they were doing to their system. They were hungry, still in fat storage, bloated, moody, energy levels up and down, and shorten their lifespan. So this is what happens when you eat more carbohydrates than what your body can digest, tolerate, and absorb and metabolize. So the key is controlling this. What research shows and what we've also seen is that if women can learn to live between 30 and 100 grams of carbohydrates a day, they can avoid this situation. There's 2 things you need to do to avoid this situation. First thing is you need to lower your carbohydrate intake to a level that's not going to cause insulin release. So that's for females. For males, it's about 30 to 150. And just an example, I have some people say, Mike, I could sit down and eat a pound of pasta for dinner. A pound of pasta has 400 grams of carbohydrates. That ruins you for 4 days or more. And that's not even counting any other carbohydrates you had during that day. If you had a pound of spinach instead, that's about 12 grams of carbohydrates. So you want to learn which foods are lower in carbs so that you can eat them to avoid this. So that's part of our program is to give you, when we do give you carbohydrates, we're giving you the ones that are lower in carbohydrates to keep you out of this situation. So you want to learn that. So number 1, learn how to reduce your carbohydrates into levels that your body can tolerate. We also know from blood typing that if you're an O blood type, you do better closer to 50 to 30 in the lower ends. And if you're an A blood type, you do better near the higher ends. And your Bs and your ABs, right there. O's are the least, are the most carbohydrate tolerant. They can't tolerate carbs compared to the other blood types. And A's seem to tolerate carbohydrates better, generally speaking. Second thing, first thing is you learn to live on a lower amount. Second thing is that anytime you do eat a carbohydrate, you want to make sure that you're including a fat or a protein with it, one or the other. If this person for lunch added some sliced steak, which is a protein, or sliced turkey, or tuna fish, which are all proteins, to that salad, The protein in those foods are broken down into ammonium, NH3, and different amino acids. If you put olive oil dressing on that salad, a lot of people avoid olive oil because they think it's high in fat and it's going to make them fat, but we know what makes you fat, too many carbohydrates. So if you put some healthy olive oil dressing on that salad, olive oil or healthy fats break down into free fatty acids, FFAs. You don't have to know this, but I just want you to see the visual, and triglycerides. So when you eat all your foods together, you have all the metabolites from the different substrates flowing through your veins. Your receptors are reading what is the percentage of glucose. The percentage of glucose here is not high because it's being buffered from your metabolites, your proteins and fats. So in this situation, you won't get a release or over-release of insulin. And then you won't be shoved into fat storage. You won't be hungry because that's going to balance your blood sugar. You'll eat less carbs. You have reduced amount of water retention. And your energy and moods will be much more even keel. And if you're producing less insulin, you're more likely to live a little longer. So the key to this whole situation is learn to live on lower amount of carbohydrates and combine your carbs with either fats or proteins, or both. And that will do it. By doing this, it will get you into what's called a fat-adapted state. Have you guys ever heard of that? A fat-adapted state? Well, most people are sugar burners. So when they get hungry, they go for carbohydrates to give them energy. And they get hungry, they go for carbohydrates to give them energy. And what happens, they're always here, like a hamster on a wheel, just chasing carbs. They're called sugar burners, which most people are. Fat-adapted state, you have the opposite. You have a smaller amount of glucose in your system, so your body's saying, listen, this person has to exercise. They don't have much glucose here. We have to save that for the brain, because that's a priority. So let's start burning some of the excess fat that's around the hips, thighs, abs, buttocks, wherever else. And the fat-adapted state is somebody who's going to get into burning fat for energy instead of relying on glucose. The second stage to fat adaptation here, which is a stage you're not going to get to in 2 weeks, but something that some blood types can strive to in the future, is what's called keto adapted. You guys have all heard of keto, right? So people who are keto adapted have learned to live on fat for a while, okay? And now what happens, the fat's breaking down to ketone bodies, and the bodies learn to run on ketones. And now it's their preferred source of fuel. Not only will their body run on ketones, but their brain will run on ketones. There's even less reliance on glucose. Interesting stuff, right? So you have to just remember, fats don't make you fat. Don't be afraid of them, as long as they're healthy fats. So that's the key. No matter, whether you're following Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers or whatever weight loss program, if you do not control your carbohydrates, you're not going to be successful. And some people go on low carbohydrate diets, and they lose the weight, and they go, I lost weight, and I'm going off my diet, and they start eating carbs again, and they go right back. So, high carbohydrate diets are not really good for everybody. You want to kind of learn to live on lower amounts of carbs. As I said, some blood types can have a little more carbs than others, and some can have less, and you have to realize what's going to make me healthy, and what's going to make me feel good, and what's going to make me live longer. And you want to kind of find a way to live for the rest of your life. So that's the first and most important rule that we follow, is control our carbohydrates. And on this program, this whole program is just teaching you on a short-term basis how to control your carbohydrates, which we'll cover in a second. No questions. Okay. Yes.
In certain food labels, they show net carbs.
That's just, to me, that's just like false advertisement. It's just something cool to make you eat something high in carbs. You'll see something like only 3 net carbs, right? 3 net carbs. What you want to look at is what are the total carbs in that product. The net carbs might be 3, but the total carbs might be 22. And that 22 right there, that's what you're taking in. You're taking in 22 grams of carbs. So you see protein bars with 3 net carbs. Then you look at total carbs at 22, 28. If you're only allowed to have 30 to 100 a day, that one little bar is going to put you very close.
What do they do, subtract out the fiber?
Yeah. So what is fiber? Fiber is carbs. It's still carbs. So it's this, to me, net carbs is a marketing trick. It's just to tell you, hey, I'm only in 3 net carbs. I like to look at total grams of carbs. There are things called resistant starches. You guys ever hear resistant starches? So there's a couple of foods of resistant starches which are typically very high in carbohydrates, but when you eat them cold, they're very low in carbohydrate. Not that you want them on this program, I have to stop. So if you eat cold rice, like a cup of rice might have about 20, 30 grams of carbs in it, maybe even more. But if you eat that that rice cold, you wait a couple hours and it's cold rice, it might only have about 8 carbs in it. Potatoes, like if you cook a baked potato, could have 20, 30 grams of carbohydrates in potato, depending on the size of it. But if you let that cool down to where it's cold, make a potato salad out of it, it's only, again, like 8 grams of carbohydrates. And those are called resistant starches. Those means that if it's like a net carb kind of thing, where you eat that cold potato, it's really only 8 grams, where it's 20 to 30 if it's hot. Those are called resistant starches. So those, for me, I'd say they're okay, but after this 14-day program's over, you can demonstrate with that. So that's what they are. Pretty cool, right? All right. So getting back to the next thing I want to discuss is the second key, and then we'll get into actually how the programs, like what to eat on what days and things like that. So next thing is the timing of your meals. The timing of your meals is really, really important. Based on a couple different research or studies that were done, we like to have our clients have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then we have snacks that are superimposed here and here, and the snacks are optional. Snacks are always optional. Don't need them if you're not hungry. And just with our female clients, typically what we do is we have 400 calories for breakfast, 300 calories for lunch, 200 calories for dinner, and 150 calorie snacks superimposed. And we're giving them a minimum, absolute minimum of 1,200 calories a day. Males, you just add 100 calories per serving, and the males are absolute minimum of 1,700 calories a day. Or eat less as the day goes on. If breakfast is at 7, a snack if you're hungry around 10, lunch is at 1, another snack if you're hungry is around 4, and then dinner is around 7. It's like a 12-hour window. If breakfast at 6, dinner's at 6. If breakfast is at 8, dinner's at 8. So you have like a 12-hour window about every 3 hours. And there's leeway. This could be 12 to 2, this could be 9 to 11, depending on how busy you are at that point of the day. The main thing about eating this way is if I draw a line here, this could be 6 to 8. Around 5 or 6 o'clock at night, if I add up all my calories, 400, 150, 300, 150, I'm having 1,000 calories out of my 1,200 calories before 5 or 6 o'clock. It's going to make me highly successful. I'm getting 80% more of my calories before 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And the reason why I'll be successful is, what am I doing during the day here? I'm usually up on my feet and I'm running around, whether I'm at work or I'm shopping or I'm taking care of the kids or whatever I'm doing. I'm moving a lot at this point of the day. So my furnace is turned on and I'm churning and burning those calories off. After 5 or 6 o'clock at night, I have dinner, but usually after dinner, what are you doing? Well, first thing is you sit down, you watch TV, or you sit down to work on a computer, or you sit down reading a book, or you're doing a foot soak to detox and reading a book. But there's no activity there. And then after that, you go to bed. So 6 to 8 hours, there's no activity there. So if you dump too many calories here, there's no activity to burn it off. And we want you to churn and burn your calories here during the day. So that's why we have our eating patterns set up this day. So breakfast and lunch should always be bigger than dinner. This whole thing is based on research. They took one group of people, and they gave them a 2,000 calorie breakfast, 0 calories for lunch, and 0 calories for dinner. Exciting, right? And then they took another group of people, they gave them 0 calories for breakfast, 0 calories for lunch, and you guys ate a 2,000 calorie dinner. So these 0 calorie meals were 0 calorie teas, gelatins, and soups to get them through the day. They ran this study for 90 days, and at the end of 90 days, this group here lost weight, and this group here gained weight. And they ran this study many, many times, and every time they run a study, these guys lose weight, these guys gain weight. Now, both groups eating the same amount of calories, same macronutrient profile, percentage of protein, fats, and carbs. So is it calories that are making these people lose weight? No, to a degree you have to watch your calories, but more or less isn't how much you're eating, but it's when you're having those calories. And they surmised from the study that these people go all day long, okay, and then they eat all their calories, and then what they do at night. There's no activity. So there's no churning and burn of the calories. Where these people eat all this food during the day, and then they go during the day, they're up and they're running and moving around, and they're able to burn it off. So activity level has a lot to do with that. So, with us, we just figured out, what, let's just keep those calories lower as the day goes on and try to keep the least amount at the end of the day. There was also another study done. They gave the first group a 700 calorie breakfast, a 500 calorie lunch, and a 200 calorie dinner. Group B, 200 calorie breakfast, 500 calorie lunch, and a 700 calorie dinner. What happened? Yeah, so the group at the 700 calorie dinner did lose some weight. The group at the 700 calorie breakfast lost 5 times more fat. 5 times more fat. A lot more weight, 5 times more fat. And also the measurables here, cholesterol, blood pressure, and everything else went down a lot and was much more improved than this group here. So these guys lost weight because of caloric reduction of 1,400 calories. But you do a better type of weight loss when you're eating less as the day goes on, trying to restrict the amount of calories at night. So this is all based on activity levels, but also recent research has shown, since you already saw the first part about carbohydrates and controlling insulin, that they recently, some recent research out shows that at night, after sundown, once the sun goes down, your body produces 25 to 50% more insulin in response to eating. So now when you eat late at night, what's going on? You're having almost twice as much of an insulin release, which is going to drive into fat storage. And then you have excess calories, which your body's not turning and burning, which will drive into fat storage. So it's like a double whammy when you eat too much at night. So everybody says, like don't eat after 6 o'clock. You can. You just make sure that's your smallest meal and try to get your meals in closer to 6 than past 6. Right? And if they are after 6, they have to be small, 200 calories. Right there, 150. So, number 1, control your carbohydrates. And number 2, eat less as the day goes on. So you want to fill up during the day and eat light at night. It's really important for those 2 reasons. Less activity and a much higher insulin response. Okay, so that's just a little bit of as to the science behind why we want you to eat the way that's on here. So this 14-day program is geared towards lowering your carbohydrate intake. Every time you do eat carbohydrates, you're going to have proteins with them for this program. And then we're also going to be adding in intermittent fasting. You guys have heard about intermittent fasting. A couple days in there. So intermittent fasting is really good for weight loss because if you eat proteins, you won't release insulin. If you eat fats, you won't release insulin, right? If you don't eat, if you fast, you won't release insulin. So low carbohydrate diet, which is low insulin release diet, combined with some fasting, is going to keep those insulin levels all the way down. And that's the key. So with your booklets, we asked you to bring with you or maybe give you a handout. This 14-day program, for the first 3 days, day 1, day 2, and day 3, we're asking you only to eat proteins and fats. Only for those first 3 days, protein fat day. You are allowed to have 1 green salad, a day for breakfast. And as we pointed out before, you might want to have it for lunch depending on how your day's set up, but we'll cover that. So you have 1 green salad. I don't care how big that salad is. You can have up to a pound of baby spinach or arugula, romaine. What else? Arugula, baby spinach, romaine. There's another one. Mixed greens, kale, things like that. No iceberg. Iceberg's garbage, yeah. Yeah, don't eat iceberg lettuce, please, because when it comes in, that's how it comes out. You can't digest it. So it's arugula, baby spinach, romaine, and mesclun. Any just green leafy vegetables are fine. So that's what you do for 3 days, okay? Day 4, we eat nothing but protein and vegetables. And then after day 4, we flip-flop. So day 5 is proteins and fats. Day 6 is protein and vegetables. We flip-flop down into the last 2 days. Day 13 and day 14 are both proteins and fats. So on protein fat day, where you're having just 1 green salad, that's a very, very, very low carbohydrate day. Your protein and veggies days, those are a little higher carbohydrate days, but they're still lower because you're only having vegetables, which have a very low amount of carbohydrates in them. Then you go back to your protein fat day, which has your green salad. So every protein fat day, there's 1 green salad on that day. And you're going to flip-flop. So you're having just a small amount of carbohydrates each day. And this is going to help you lower your total carbohydrate intake, flush out all that excess water that's in there because you have excess carbs in your system. And it's also going to help you stop reducing insulin, get you out of fat storage, and then to position your body to be in a fat burning situation. So those are how the days were figured out. On protein fat days, on most of them except for the first 2 days, on protein fat days, we're asking you to eat during an 8-hour compressed window of eating. So, let me clean this off and go over this. So, on your schedule, most of the protein fat days that are in there, protein fat day, we're asking you to eat during an 8-hour compressed window. So that means that we want you eating your food between, say, 12 noon and 8 p.m. That's an 8-hour period where you can eat. You might choose to take that 8-hour window and say, I'd rather eat between 10 and 6 because I want to not produce too much insulin right there. Or I want to eat between 11 and 7, okay? Or between 9 and 5. It doesn't matter what 8-hour window it is. It's whatever fits in your schedule. And it could be this one day, it could be this the next. Doesn't matter. So it's a floating 8-hour window to eating. During that 8 hours, so let's say we eat at 12 to 8. So usually at 12 o'clock, I tell my clients to eat either breakfast or lunch. One of those two. Doesn't matter, whatever you're into. Halfway through that, about a 4-hour period, you can have a snack or you can have lunch if you had breakfast. And then 8 o'clock, you can have dinner. But basically on protein fat day, there's 3 feedings. Now, if you get hungry here or here, I want you to do one of 2 things. First thing you do is you can say, listen, I'll have some coffee, or I'll have tea, or I'll have water. So drink the cup of coffee, decaf, regular, or tea. Could be herbal tea, black tea, green tea, or drink water. And when you're done drinking that fluid, if you're not hungry, you're good, right? Then you get to that next meal. If you're still hungry, then you have to have a snack. So snacks are optional, and optional meaning you only have a snack if you're hungry. So if you're hungry, have a snack. So that happens here, and that happens here. So during those 2 situations in between, if you feel you're hungry, you have a little cup of coffee or tea, you're still hungry, then you grab your snack. So you want to start listening to your body and only eat when you're hungry. Now, there's only 2 things that cause hunger. Okay? So number 1 is you're not eating enough. You don't eat enough, you can get hungry. You need to eat. So when you get hungry, we're asking you to have coffee, tea, or water. And then if you're still hungry after that, it means you need to eat. You're not eating enough. Second reason that you would be hungry is because what? And you guys just learned that. If you eat more carbs than your body can handle, it's going to trigger a hunger response, right? Too many carbs. Now, if I am your nutrition coach for the next 2 weeks. If you text, and if you get hungry, shoot me a text. And you're going to say, Mike, I'm hungry, and now I know when you text me you're hungry, I know you're not eating too many carbs. So I know you're not hungry because you ate too many carbs. I know you're not eating enough. So I'll start at set. What did you eat today? What did you have for lunch? What was your snack? What did you have this morning? How about last night? And we're going to figure out, say, okay, you're not eating enough. You have to have 1 egg for breakfast. You need 3 or 4. So we're going to start going over the coaching. You just need to eat a little bit more. So hunger I need to know because I want to coach you. And most of it's here. You're not eating enough. So if you're getting hungry here, not eating enough, here not eating enough, or maybe just need a little bit to get you through.
Are you still eating the same amount of calories on those days?
No. These protein fat days are intermittent fasting days, and fasting days mean you're eating less calories. So I'm trying to get you through with 3, well, it could be 3 meals or 2 meals and a snack. I'm trying to get you through with that. But if you're hungry, you're just not ready to fast yet. Your body's not ready. You will be, it's just today you're not. So you have to, it might not be your day. It might take time. Some people it takes a little time. Some people doesn't.
But that last is still a minimum of 1,200 calories.
Yeah, and some people might have to go through a couple of days where they plan to fast and their body just weren't ready yet. But the more you stick to this program, you'll be ready to fast. And I really don't think anybody's going to have a problem with this. I mean, I've been through it myself. I've been through a lot of people. We haven't had those issues. And it might just be the first day you try it, you get by with just 1 snack. And then the next time, it's all right. And then after a week, it's like, oh, I'm not even hungry. So that's what we have here. When I was doing my fasting, I was eating between 12 and 6. So they're 18, it was an 18-hour fast. These are 16-hour fasts. And 12 o'clock, I'd eat either breakfast or lunch. At 3 o'clock, I'd have what I called a keto coffee. And at 6 o'clock, I'd have dinner. And the dinner, when I got to 6, I was like, I'm not even hungry. I just ate a very small dinner. And it was not an issue. And sometimes I got home from work late, and I'd eat at 8 instead of 6 and do my 16-hour fast. Same thing. If I had this here, I still was not hungry there. I had a small dinner. So, when your carbs are low, you don't get hungry. And when your fats are high, good fats are high, they supply your body with the energy it needs. And you start being fat adapted. And your body has a lot more fat in storage than you can store in carbs. So there's like an overabundance of calories and energy there for your body to run off of. It's amazing. You just have to get your body to that state, which might take a little while. So, this is the goal. But again, if you're hungry here in the beginning, eat. And we'll go from there. But I promise you, you'll start getting less hungry as the time goes on. So this is protein fat. These are your 8-hour windows. And we're doing that pretty much every other day after the first 3 days. We've done a lot of research on intermittent fasting, found the most effective, safest way is what's called a 16-8 every other day fast, which is what this is. You would never want to fast every day. You're just going to get into trouble. And you don't want to do longer fasts. Specifically, women wouldn't want to do longer fasts because it will affect your hormonal levels. So a 16-hour fast, short term, every other day for 2 weeks or a little less than 2 weeks is not going to be an issue. Long term, if you try to do longer fasts and try to do them more often, you can definitely run into a hormonal imbalance and hurt your hormonal system. So just stick for this, and at the end of this 2-week program, we're going to say, okay, if you want to continue going forward, this is how you should eat, depending on what your goals are. Maintenance, lose more, or whatever it is. Typically, any fast longer than 16 hours is more geared towards health benefits than weight loss. You get maximum weight loss benefits up to 16 hours. Anything past 16 hours, you start getting more health benefits, which isn't so bad anyway, right? And you want to do that if you're in a situation where your health is poor. You're diabetic, you're obese, 300-400 pounds, things like that. Those people can do everyday fasts, which is supervised by a professional. And there are more in it for health benefits. They have to do that, get that weight off, get their diabetes under control, their blood pressure, cholesterol under control faster than to die. So they can go on extended fast. 24 hours, 48, 72, 1 week, 1 month. Right? But you guys, none of you guys are in this situation. You just want to be a little leaner. And 16-8 is the best, safest, most effective for you. So this is protein fat day, 8-hour window.
What was the record you said that one guy did it for so long?
Yeah, the longest fast without food, 384 days. So there was a gentleman who, very type 2 diabetic, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, a lot of serious medical issues, plus his obesity. Wanted to get healthy quick, supervised by Dr. Fung, Jason Fung. I don't know if you guys know him or not, but he's like the grandfather of fasting. So he weighed like 400-something pounds. He fasted 384 days, and all he had was water, coffee, black, of course, bone broth, and a multivitamin, multi-mineral, MVM, every day. No food. So this is all he had for 384 days. At the end of 384 days, he lost 224 pounds. His cholesterol was normal. He was no longer type 2 diabetic, which this all happened before the 384 days was up. But his cholesterol was normalized. HDLs were very high, not as high as they want them to do, which I'll explain in a second. His LDLs plummeted. His blood pressure was normalized. Again, he wasn't a diabetic anymore. His A1C went from, I think it was in the 8s, down into the high 4s, like 4.9. So he wasn't a type 2 diabetic anymore. His blood glucose numbers, which he was watching every day, which were always like, 200 or 300, were registering at 70, which are like unheard of. Super, super low. So he got healthy, lost weight, felt like $1 million, and didn't eat any food for 384 days. And the biggest thing is he lost no muscle tissue, which was something they thought he would do. The only thing negative at his whole thing that he did was his HCLs, his high-density lipoproteins, which are the good cholesterol, went down. So, and they found out that the reason why his HCL went down because he didn't eat enough fat, HDL, your good cholesterol. In order to build that, you have to eat healthy fats. And there were no fats in here. He was having a bone broth to get the protein in, which helped him maintain his muscle tissue. But he said, and Dr. Fung said, after that point, what they do now with people doing long-term fasts is they add MCT oil or coconut oil to the bone broth to get the healthy fats in to make the HDLs stay the same or go up. That's what they learned. So, you know, you guys won't die with a 16-8 intermittent fast. And what they said that after a certain period, I forget what it was, that hunger is non-existent. Yeah. And they went over the mechanism to why, as how your body, your nervous system adapts. I don't want to get into that, it's kind of deep. But yeah, I found out with the 6 weeks I did of intermittent fasting that the longer I went, it was like you feel like you could go all day and not even eat. It's amazing. And you have abundance of energy. And all the notes are in your manuals, like how to cook on each day. So you want to make sure you review that, understand it, and apply it. If you have questions, my cell phone number's in the manual, my email address. You might go home tonight, have 10 questions, just shoot me an email. I'll answer them. If it's a one quick question, how, you're not feeling right or you're not sure about something, shoot me a text, and I'll answer that also. So with Protein Veggie Day, the cooking is a little different than Protein Fat Day, and that's the most important thing you need to know. Other than that,
And veggies are a fistful, right?
yeah, the measurements, measurements are the same. Proteins are measured in palms, so you'll see in your manuals 2 to 3 palms or 1 to 3 palms. So your proteins measured in palms, the size of your palm with the thickness of it, and vegetables are measured in fist sizes. So you're allowed to have 3 fists of vegetables. So, it's about a little more than a cup, right? At any time, you can trade in a fist of vegetables for a hand of greens. So if you're on Protein Veggie Day and it says you can have 1 to 3 fists of vegetables, you can take 2 fists of vegetables, and that third fist, you go them up and make it a hand of greens, up as big as you want. Yeah, so that's Protein Veggie Day. Protein Fat Day, you don't have that option. But the protein servings are a palm of protein. So it's, cheese, hamburger, chicken burger, turkey burger, salmon, steak, whatever steak you want. They're palm sizes. It's anywhere from 1, 2, or 3 palm sizes. Fats are measured in tablespoons. So things like coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil. So when you're using oils, you want to use oils that are derived from fats because those are the healthiest oils. You want to stay away from vegetable oils. I don't know if you guys read all about that and everything, but the fats, the oils derived from fats are better for you. So those are measured in teaspoons. Butter, so if you have like grass-fed butter or ghee, those are measured in teaspoons. Avocado, it's like usually a third to a half of avocado, depending on the size, the serving of fat. Nuts and seeds are also healthy fats. But with nuts, the serving sizes are all over the place. Like I think it's like 2 Brazil nuts is a serving of fat, but 30 pistachios is a serving of fat. So every nut has a different amount. We have a list in your manuals of fat servings. So if you want pecans or almonds or whatever, the numbers are in there for the fat servings. Nut butters are also considered healthy fats. So like peanut butter, almond butter, and then any nut can be turned into nut butter. So macadamia nut butter, walnut butter, cashew butter, nut butter. Any nuts can be turned into a butter. And those are, hi Alyssa, those are measured in tablespoons. So those are the fat servings. So proteins are hands, fats are tablespoons, or the nut serving sizes are there. There are some foods that are considered either fat or protein. You can use them either way. And those are things like your alternative cheeses. So we like to use goat cheese, sheep cheese, and buffalo cheese. No cow cheese. So those can be considered a fat or a protein, depending on how you want to use them. Sausage and bacon, specifically if it's organic, can be used as either protein or fat, depending on how you want to use it. So again, we didn't discuss blood typing, but O and B blood types are more likely going to want more protein on Protein Veggie Day. And if you're allowed to have like 1 to 3 palms of protein or 1 to 3 fists, and you're allowed to have 4 total servings, most O blood types are going to take 3 servings of protein and 1 serving of vegetable. It's a typical O response. Most A blood types are going to say, I want 3 veggies and 1 protein. So you go with whatever you feel. If you feel you want more vegetables on that day, you have more because your body's telling you, like, this is what you need. If you feel like you want more protein on this day, have more. Some people might want to have 2 proteins and 2 vegetables. That's a typical B blood type response. So you want to go with what you feel like. If you feel like you like vegetables, then that's what you need to have. Your body will tell you what's proper for you. Don't go by what somebody told you, like, hey, this is healthy for you. Go by what your body's telling you. If you sit in front of a table and there's steak on this table and vegetables on this table and your body's drawn to that steak, but you heard like steak's bad for you, go to the steak because it's not bad for you. So serving sizes, we have down. Liquids, so water, you want to drink as much as water as you can. We usually have our clients drink half their body weight in ounces a day. So just take your weight, cut it in half. So if you're 200 pounds, cut it in half, it's 100 ounces a day. If you're 150 pounds, cut that in half, you need 75 ounces a day. And you want to make sure you drink enough water when you're going through this program because your body's going to be detoxing. And when you drink enough water, you're going to flush out all those toxins. That's really, really important. I don't want anybody getting sick. Caroline maybe can talk about 5 minutes about that. Detoxing and water.
It's 7 o'clock, dear.
Okay, so Caroline won't talk about it. So,
You can save me any time.
so you definitely want to increase your water intake. You can drink water. You have coffee, tea, unsweetened tea. It's going to be herbal tea, green tea, black tea, cold tea, hot tea, doesn't matter. Water, coffee, tea. You can have club soda or a seltzer, as long as they're unsweetened. So those are the fluids that you can have. One thing I didn't mention is your fasting hours. So let's say it's a fasting day, and you're eating between 12 and 8, and say you wake up at 5. What you can have between 5 and 12 is right there. Any non-caloric liquid. And what you can have after 8 o'clock at night is any non-caloric liquid. So fasting is you're not having calories. Yes?
So if you work out at 5:30 in the morning, you don't eat until 12.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically when I was using a 12 to 6 when I did the intermittent fasting program almost about a year and a half ago. I wake up at 5 o'clock during the week, my alarm goes off, and I jump in the shower, and I have to be here at 6 a.m. because I have a client waiting for me. And I would train them from 6 to 7. At 7 o'clock, I'd have coffee. And I work out from 7 to 9. Or maybe we talk for a half hour and I work out for an hour and a half. So I work out, and one of the best things you can do is work out in a fasted state. You'll burn fat like 5 times better than in a non-fasting state. So I wanted to work out during my fasted state, and I was done at 9. And usually I train somebody at 10 and 11, or maybe 9, 10, 11. I'd train 2 or 3 clients, but I was done by 12. And at 12 o'clock, I'd go and have my first meal. I thought I would never be able to do this. It was so easy the first time. It was not easy. It wasn't hard at all. And I worked out my fasted state, and then I eat my meal at 12, but this meal was huge. I mean, I would go, I like to eat at River's Edge Cafe because I can get organic eggs and organic food. So I'd go in there and say, okay, I need like 4 or 5 eggs, and I need 2 pieces of sausage and 2 or 3 pieces of bacon. And that was my protein fat day. And really, I didn't even have any carbs that day. And I was good, really good. And then around 3 or 4 o'clock, I'd have this thing I call a keto coffee. So it's coffee with a tablespoon of olive oil in it, which is, coconut oil, which is a fat, and a tablespoon of ghee, which is a fat, and a little cacao, which is like a chocolate-flavored superfood, but no sugar in it. And I blend it up, put a little sea salt in it, and it's like a 200, 250-calorie coffee, but pure fats. And it was decaf coffee at the time, so a little bit of caffeine and the fats just energized me. And I get home between 6 and 8, and I wasn't even hungry. And I have a really small dinner. And dinner for me on a protein fat day, I like to take fish because I have a little bit more of it, same amount of calories. So I'd take a piece of fish, and I'd either put mayonnaise on it or mustard. And then I'd chop nuts up. So it could be pecans or pistachios, and I'd chop them fine. And I'd dip the mustard or the mayonnaise in it. And I have a nut-encrusted fish, put it in the oven and bake it. And I'd take it out, and I'd melt butter, put a squeeze of lemon in there, and put the butter sauce off it. That's all protein and fat, and it was delicious. And one piece filled me up. And that was my protein fat day. I had 2 meals and a snack, and it was like never hungry. And then I wake up the next morning, and then if I wanted to, I can eat, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whenever I want to have breakfast. And then it was my non-fasting day. So that, that was my routine. And then some on my fasting days, 12 o'clock, I'm like, I don't feel like having breakfast today. I would eat what was called my 4-fat salad. Because when you're eating protein, fat, and specifically I was trying to keep more keto, healthy fats, really your body runs on that. So I'd have my 4-fat salad. So I put an olive oil-based dressing, which is 1 fat. I put goat cheese on it, which is 2nd fat. Chopped walnuts, a 3rd fat, and some avocados, a 4th fat. So I put that on and I don't like romaine. So I'd have like mixed field greens or baby spinach. I'd throw those 4 fats on it, and then I want some protein. I'd just take like a palm-sized piece of chicken, blackened chicken I used to get there because I get organic blackened chicken there, and they throw it in there. And that big salad with all the fats in it filled me up, and around 3 or 4 o'clock, keto coffee again. Then at home I'd go home and have dinner with, that's it. So that's just an idea of like what I did and how I got through my fasting, intermittent fast, and it was very easy. I demonstrate on this because I want to do it. I researched it first, demonstrated on myself. 1 or 2 of the trainers went it with me. 6 weeks, I lost 26 pounds, and I wasn't really overweight to begin with, and I wasn't trying to lose weight. I just wanted to do it for health reasons, and I also wanted to see how it made me feel and how to do it properly and what fine things to tweak and what to do. And I had to stop the intermittent fasting because my wife said I was way too thin, I looked sickly. So I stopped intermittent fasting at that point, but kept on the keto because I just liked the way it made me feel and the energy I got from it. And I still pretty much follow that. I'll fast now, maybe just sometimes I say, oh wow, I haven't eaten, it's 12 o'clock. It's going to be a fast day, but those days are very few and far between. And if I do fast, I know that I can drop weight like that, even from this point on.
And you didn't lose any muscle?
No, well, I did lose muscle towards the end when I was getting really thin because I was fasting too often. Yeah, I was fasting too often and not eating enough. But I had to learn. I had to learn what was too much, what was not enough, what was the research showing. So,
Nancy's trying to tell you got too skinny too.
well, a lot of people did. So anyway, and the weight stayed off. After I stopped intermittent fasting, my weight went up about 6 more pounds. So I'm pretty much maintaining right now a 20-pound loss from a year and a half ago. So that's it. But to me, and I've been doing this for well over 30 years, and for me, intermittent fasting is the best weight loss tool that you can use. Better, it's just a great tool when done properly. And if it's overdone, it's not done properly. So when you use it in the context of what we're showing you and adopt it, it's really interesting. And there's a lot of good health medicinal benefits to fasting. There's a book out, The Beginner's Guide to Intermittent Fasting, The Beginner's Guide to Fasting by Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G. And if you're interested in fasting, it's a great book to listen to because he gives you all the scientific research behind fasting for health benefits, for longevity, for less damage, oxidative damage to your cells and things like that. I'm getting pulled off stage here, so I'm done talking. This is we just kind of want to teach a little bit about what we're doing without giving you too much information. When you set your nutrition session up with your nutrition counselor, they're going to go into each division, okay, this is breakfast, this is lunch, this is dinner, serving sizes, recommendations, things that might not be in a manual that you can still use, like we went over this morning, and meal prep and things like that. You'll get that specific meal information in your nutrition session. So get that booked as soon as you can. Set your appointment up to get your weight and your body fat checked, and we'll go. And then you need to call, text, email me anytime there's an issue. Any issues at all. I have a headache, I need a text. I feel bloated, I need a text. I'm lightheaded and dizzy, I need a text. Anything that's not normal, I need a text because then I can coach you through it because it happens a lot. Specifically, the first 3 to 5 days, you might trigger a headache. You might break out and have a rash, skin rash, or pimples. You might be really super, super tired. This is just your body going through a detox phase. But after 3 to 5 days, you should start feeling an abundance of energy and feeling like $1 million. So, but communicate as often as you can.
One thing you didn't mention, how much exercise, like, 'cause I was seeing, you were saying like 3 to 4.
So exercise, okay, so basically 80% of any program is nutrition. If you nail this nutrition, you cannot even exercise and do great. We had a guy in one of our programs, 6-week programs, lost 36 pounds, never exercised because he was an AFib, and he had an appointment to have an ablation. This, an ablation, and they go up and they cauterize the node that's misfiring. So doctor didn't want him working out, just followed a nutrition plan, 36 pounds. So 80% or more is nutrition. So when it comes to exercise, you just got to move. Just move. Walk 10 minutes a day. You just have to move. If you've been exercising all along like you are, keep exercising. as you can tell, if you were eating too many carbs and doing all the exercising, it wasn't because you weren't exercising enough, right? It's because you're eating too many carbs. So I'm not a fan of over-exercising. I'm a fan, you need to do some, just don't, overkill. If you haven't been exercising at this point, don't think you're going to start taking 6 boot camps a week because you're going to get hurt and you're going to mess up. So just maybe come in and ride the bike 10 minutes every other day, and then try to do a little bit more each time you come in after that. So start slow with the exercise, but hit that diet 110 miles an hour, because that's where your results can get. And in 2 weeks, you should build up a decent base where you can exercise more.
Michael, can I introduce some of the trainers that are here?
Come on down.
So I'm Carol Ann, and Katie's behind the front desk. So if you have any questions about the program, or if you want to schedule any training or nutrition sessions, we can help you at the front desk. Joe. Ernesto.
Pete.
This is Joe. Joe, you can train with Joe at both clubs. Little Silver and here. Thanks, Joe. You're welcome. And this is Ernesto. Ernesto is our head trainer here in Oakers. Ernesto also does nutrition for us as well. Thank you for coming. You can, and Steve. Steven. And this is Steven Krug. Hello, everyone. And he's at both clubs also.
Yeah, we have about 20 trainers between 2 clubs, so it should be no problem getting an appointment. We have 8 nutrition counselors to work with you. So I think for this program, it's myself and Ernesto and Tiffany Susan. So 4 of us can take care of you, but you guys have my information. It's not a huge group, so I can handle everybody. Unless you've been working with somebody before and you feel comfortable with them, that's cool. As long as you get the information you need, that's the most important thing. So I hope you learn a little bit and do the program. If you follow it meticulously, you'll do great. Okay, cool. Starts Monday. You can start whenever you guys want. Just got to be on a 14 days. Got to get your weight and your body fat day 1. 14 days after you've been on the full program, 14 days, set your weight. So some people might take 3 days to start and then do 14 days. Some people might start tomorrow and do 14 days from there. So you don't all have to start and stop at the same time. But I'd like you to be done within 3 weeks. So nothing too extended, because then you'll never come back. All right, so start as soon as you can.